pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the previous minutes.
I move we approve the previous minutes.
I second. Questions on the previous minutes?
Ellen?
Yes.
Spark?
Yes.
Lana? Yes. Monica?
Yes.
Yes. Move on to approval of the bills and the warrants.
I make a motion that we approve the bills and warrants. You second that?
Questions and concerns on the bills and the warrants?
So, were April legal services for Montana School Board 633580,
Yes.
and that's added to February and March, the previous bills and warrants that kind of got posted for another roughly 6,000, so
Yes.
we're at $12,000 in
Yes.
3 months. Is there an end in sight?
I hope so.
Is that for negotiation fees? Is that for, like, what are we utilizing $12,000 worth of legal fees for?
Yeah.
And with no end in sight?
There was multiple things that had taken place, but yeah.
Part of negotiations?
Some, yes.
Is this the first time, like, in recent history that we've come to the table with legal on both sides of future negotiations? Cause I don't ever,
As far as I know.
yeah, I don't ever remember that happening, so is there a reason why?
Through conversation with MTSBA and how the negotiations went last year and the things that were taking place in legislation and how things are coming across, they said, I strongly advise that you guys use that part of your service. So,
What part of the budget does that come out of?
I think you can talk about it calls the superintendent's part, the superintendent fund part of that.
So part of the general fund?
So proportionately, did the entire state negotiate using the Montana School Board Association?
I couldn't answer that question exactly, but I know there's some local services, local schools around who use it, yeah, other ones.
I'd just be interested to see the percentage statewide if that's what they were recommending.
Well, I mean, not all schools use MTSBA, so it'd be hard to probably pull a real percentage off of it, but it is a service available.
So is that because you voted no confidence and there just wasn't a way to sit down at the table and negotiate, or no?
That was
Or is
that
it
was
a-
well before all that.
Yeah.
Or is it, I mean, I guess the question I've asked before and I've never
Mhm.
gotten an answer to is, you know, squarely in the superintendent's job description, it's to oversee negotiations.
Yeah.
And, the question's out there, is it because she doesn't have her
Well-
classes in collective bargaining yet?
No,
Or-
I will tell you, and again, you're saying that a lot of this is taking place and a lot of the dollar amount that you're seeing is for negotiations.
No,
and
I
it's
asked you guys
Not
that.
for negotiations. There was other things that were going on that we had to do with MTSBA. Things that we can't share. And so very little of it would have been towards what you're concerned about, and that is the negotiation part of it.
Oh, and I guess I had asked that question if it was going towards negotiations.
I, a little, and I
Or-
said, and I said a little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit, yep,
Okay. Just curious, it's a lot of money.
yeah. Yep, for sure. Any other questions, concerns on the bills and the wants for?
I guess I have a question. I believe Natalie said at the last meeting I was at that every time you get a question, you run it by them. I think that was how it was stated. He stated that when you get a question.
Well, we can talk about that in, the non-agenda items if you would like.
okay, well, I just wondered if it fell in the same
No, I get it,
category,
yeah.
because that was a question at that time.
Okay,
Monica?
Yes.
Lana?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bo?
yes. Okay, and this part of the meeting will adjourn, and then we will pick up, with the new, annual organization meeting, regular meeting. And so, first of all, we'll call for the canvass of votes, and declaration of results.
Hi, everybody, I'm Elisa Garcia. In this capacity, I'm County Superintendent of Schools and Elections Administrator, for those of you who don't know me. So I'm going to read the canvass of votes and declaration of results. Canvass of votes cast at the Plains Public School District Number 1 election, Sanders County, on the 6th day of May 2025 for the 2025 Plains School Trustee election. The Plains trustee number of votes: Robert Cutlip 360, Colleen McCarthy 616. We hereby certify that this constitutes a full, true, and complete canvass of the number of votes cast and declaration of results of Plains Public School District Number 1, Sanders County, for the offices enumerated. And we hereby declare elected the individual listed receiving the highest number of votes. Attest by my hand this 19th day of May 2025, and we'll have each of the board members print in this column and sign in this column, please.
And now for the reorganization of the board. Yes.
Okay, so, Colleen McCarthy. So I'm gonna, have you, do an oath of office. Usually, so I'm struggling because usually the board chair signs, and I don't know now that Bo's gotten up what we're gonna do about that, so we'll, figure that out.
Well, do you wanna come stand up for a minute?
In a minute.
Hasn't, yeah. Just the vice chair will sign. The vice chair.
Vice Chair.
Monica?
Okay, great.
Okay.
Can you please, put some sign right there? Okay. So ready to right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Montana,
and the Constitution of the State of Montana,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity, so help me God.
with fidelity, so help me God.
Thank you for your service. Thank you very much. Now you can sit down. Or, yes, you can take your spot. Come on up and enjoy the seat.
Would it be appropriate for me to introduce myself? Is it okay if I just introduce myself for a minute to my new colleagues and to the folks who are here tonight? My name's Colleen McCarthy. I'm obviously the new board member. I graduated from high school here in 1975, which seems like not very long ago. Yet, you know, we're having our 50-year high school reunion in 2 weeks. So wow, I turned into an old lady overnight. I got an engineering degree from Montana Tech, and I worked as an engineer and engineering manager for 38 years, mostly in Alaska. However, my last posting with Shell Oil Company was at their headquarters in the Netherlands. So I had a global job, and I had the amazing opportunity to travel all over the world, which was a huge, cool experience for a hick girl from rural Montana. But I have to say that after having seen a lot of the world, Sanders County, Montana stacks up pretty good. And I am delighted to be here, and I really look forward to this opportunity, so thanks. Okay, does anybody have any nominations for the board chair?
I nominate Lana Dickin for chair.
I'll second that.
Anybody else? Okay, let's vote then.
Steve,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Colleen.
Yes.
Okay, any nominations for the vice chair?
I nominate Steve Spark.
I'll second. Anybody else? Have a nomination?
I would nominate Monica.
Sir, point of order. You just nominated a new chair who normally takes over the meeting and you would call for that nomination.
And I think we have one nomination on the floor.
Kathy, you ready? We're ready to take a vote on the vice chair.
Yes.
Monica.
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Lana?
Yes.
Colleen?
So on to the next agenda item, consideration of recommendation to appoint an interim district clerk pursuant to section 2-321, Montana Code annotated, which will be Catherine Collier.
I will accept Catherine Elliott as clerk.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that?
Is she gonna be, is this a compensated position?
Okay, take a vote on that. Sorry, I didn't get who. That's okay. Ellen and then Monica.
Ellen?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Colleen? Yes. Lana?
Yes. Okay, so this is public participation on non-agenda items. We're glad you're all here.
We have a podium here, please come up and stand at the podium, state your name. Remember, you're talking to the board only, so just keep your conversations directed towards us. If there's something you wanna say that sounds like it might be related to something on agenda items, please save it, because we cannot legally talk back with you if you're doing it in this fashion. And to be courteous of everybody's time, we're going to have comments limited to 3 minutes, which is common practice, and it will just help us all be wise with our time with each other. Okay. Okay. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items?
Is this like where you speak?
On
Like
anything that's
everybody-
not on the agenda? Correct, up to the
I gotta do
podium.
this before I get scared.
No, you're fine.
I've been working on this for a long time.
Okay,
This is
please
my
state-
last year.
State your name.
Oh, well, my name is Sue Sneed. Please don't make me more nervous.
It'll just buzz when it's done.
I'd like to address the Board of Trustees and thank them for their service. I know it's not an easy task to be a board member. You have to put your own preferences aside and make hard decisions for the good of the school and the students and the employees. So I wanna thank you for that. And the best thing I feel like you can do for these students is hire the most qualified teachers that you can have, that will apply to a little rural town. And I've worked here for 14 years and had a good relationship with these teachers. They have been my friends. They have been the ones that have supported me when Jimmy got run over by the tractor. They've been the ones that brought a birthday party to me when we were in the hospital in Idaho. They have been my friends, and I really appreciate that. But I want you to know, if you don't know, maybe you do, they give 100% every day to the school. It's, their passion is to teach these children and these young people, and to send them out with a knowledge of what they need to be successful. And I don't know if you all realize, and maybe Colleen, because she's new, wouldn't know this, but you have 2 teachers that have taught here for over 30 years. You have 6 people that have taught here for over 20 years. You have 9 with 10 or more years, and 4 have been here 5 years. That's amazing. Their plates are full, and I see them be asked to do more things, and they do it, mostly without grumbling. They just take a deep breath and do it, and I appreciate that. They are seasoned educators, experienced, that you will not be able to replace with the same caliber, I am sure. They are not tired of teaching. I don't know, if people think that, but these people are not tired of teaching. They might be tired of teaching kids that sleep through class every day, every day, every day. They might be tired of teaching kids that say, no, I'm not doing that because I'm never gonna use that geometry. They might be tired of that, but they're not tired of teaching. They're not tired of teaching these kids the basics and the good things. I never had this big of a congregation. I usually speak at the rest home. And they don't really care. They're sleeping. Oh no, they're wide awake and they're just really happy I'm there.
Sue,
Yes.
the 3 minutes is up.
Well, I've only gone on 1 page.
I get that. I wanna keep it fair and equal across the board. If I
Okay,
go
well,
over to 3, we're
I
gonna
just
go
want
over
y'all
to
to
3.
remember, when you're making decisions, that this is your lifeblood. This is the life of the school, as these teachers.
Anyone else? Move on to reports. Superintendent?
Hey, good evening, and congratulations, Colleen, congratulations, Bo, and certainly to the chair and the vice chair. It's been very active in, since the end of March, when we're seeking to find a new business manager, And as my report reflected to you, we've exhausted and we've talked with about 13 different people in various places, from OPI, from ASBO, from neighboring districts who've all been helping us. Certainly, as Kelly sits here, I'll say, hard shoes to fill, but nonetheless, we'll be doing our best to do that. And it's a long, tedious, it's a very complicated process. So we've interviewed 3 people so far. We have 2 more probably next week, not this week because school is too busy. We want to be present to the children this week. So we're working on that, and presently, and you'll see later in your, when I asked to make the recommendation to have Gwen Anderson as a consultant, because she's been, for me, one of the biggest priorities is to take care of the teachers, the summer pay, getting all of their things paid, all of the dues, taxes, everything that's needed to do it. We don't play with people's money. That's me. So we're gonna be sure that we have that done, and if you give me permission to hire this consultant, she's a business manager. She does 3 other schools. She's retired, and she's very well versed, and she's been able to really help us structure, pull out what we need to pull out, organize, structure, have a good understanding of things, and hopefully carry on the good work, and be fiscally responsible for everything that we have in the district. Times are tough, but we're trying to look at every corner of it. So right now, that's where we stand. We don't have anyone yet. The net is still out there. If you know of folks who might be interested, please suggest it. It's a very important position. It's an extremely difficult position to fill. You have to be a little bit of a Superman, a woman, genius, and everything else. It's a very, very daunting task. But certainly, as Ms. Sneed said, a meaningful one when you're working for the kids. After that, we have a conversation regarding Harmony. We had a Zoom meeting last week to get a little bit more information, and that was really to answer some of the questions that teachers had the last time we met with the Harmony group. One of the things was about valedictorian and salutatory, and how is that chosen if we were to go with Harmony. The answer to that is the school decides, and Harmony goes along with whatever the rules and regulations that the school implements and puts in. The other question was, what about special education? And in special education, they work, again, they don't have their biggest, they have 3 tiers. You've heard me speak of this before. 3 tiers, and first tier is mostly elementary school and people who are definitely strict homeschool folks. The second one is a hybrid. It's in school and it's at home for special education where the needs, and we asked the question, does that burden our special ed teachers more and more because, more juggling, more things? And they said, no, we work it out, we work it out. I spoke with Peter Joseph, the superintendent of Corvallis, who gave us a great run-through of the program, and he has a handbook and he said, you should really look at the handbook because all the schools in Montana should use it. And I said, all the schools. I knew what Mr. Baker had told me, which school was interested in it. And then I looked, and it tells us that presently they have contracts with Ronan, St. Ignatius, Woodman, Knoxon, Florence, Stevensville, Corvallis, Hamilton, and Darby. And they are in negotiations with Victor, Lone Rock, Frenchtown, Laurel, Missoula, East Helena, and possibly us. So these are all the groups within Montana that are thinking of engaging in this opportunity of learning for the students. Lana and I, it was a Friday Zoom, so Lana and I attended it, and I don't know, Lana, if you want to say anything to that Zoom, and we had these questions, I don't know if you can, but talk a little bit about what your concept was.
Yeah, so took some of the questions that community members and teachers had regarding if we were to partner with a kind of homeschool-based program. There's a lot of good and some concerns on the other side. I think that the Corvallis superintendent spoke very well to that. He talked to numbers with special education kids. They took 300 kids in their program through Harmony, and I think 4 of them were special education kiddos who are receiving services to the school, and there were another 4 or 5 who chose to withdraw or not go with their IEP of 504 because they wanted to be strictly homeschooled, and parents have that choice. So it didn't sound like, even with that many numbers, that a lot of special education concerns will necessarily come on our doorstep either, for a heavy burden, which was nice to hear. Yeah, he's been kind of the guinea pig, and so he said they've been working out the kinks through the Corvallis school, and he would continue working with any school that chose to partner with Harmony to help those partner schools kind of avoid some of those pitfalls. So it was a really great conversation.
So that's where we are with the Harmony, moving forward with Harmony. The other thing, we're also continuing negotiations, as you heard earlier, with our teacher union. Right now, we're looking at the STARS Act. We had to by May 15th apply for it and make sure we were we were connected with OPI, which we are. So we are in on the STARS Act. Right now, we're looking at numbers, and both sides of the table are looking at numbers and talking with each other and seeing what we can work out for the best, what's in the best interest of our teachers. And again, Ms. Sneed, you hit the ball, you set the tone, right? Because that's really what it's about. So we're looking at that, and House Bill 252, that being passed, there's a lot of pieces to it, and we want to make sure every dot is up, every I is dotted, and every T is crossed. MTSBA puts out a lot of directives, and so too do a lot of the other, MASBO and all. So we're really putting that conglomerate together to do what we have to do for our teachers, and then we will do it for the classified staff as well. The one problem that we had is because of open enrollment and the whole thing of our healthcare, they want to come and talk about healthcare, and I had a conversation with one of the teachers this morning about it. They want to come tomorrow and say, here's the healthcare. Well, how do we know? We don't know what we've negotiated yet in healthcare for our contract. The person who's coming to speak to that knows about that. The gentleman who, on both sides, who are negotiating our contract knows about that. And basically, I told them we can tell you we're going with Pacific Source again for another year, but I can't tell you what the numbers are. So that's what, and it's very frustrating to all of the staff, because how can you give me any direction if I don't know the numbers? But that is something that I definitely brought to their attention. And when he comes tomorrow, I would, if you choose to visit with him, I would ask him exactly, what am I supposed to do, and I don't have the facts. I doubt that he came up with another answer, but you never know. And then with the start of the new school year coming, before you know it, I know we're ending one this week and we'll be starting one soon. And with the luxury of having a new board member aboard, we're going to be sure that we go into board training again. Go to school board training, request that so that we can all be well versed, understand the educational laws, understand the impact of any new changes that have taken effect since the legislative session, and we're going to keep working hard for the good, and the good is the children. Thank you.
Mr. Murdoch?
I saw posted for 2 interviews for the business office manager. I didn't realize there were 3.
Yes, on both times, it was 3:15 to 4:30. There were 2 dates we interviewed. One, we had 1 person, the second time we had 2. They were all posted.
Normally it'll say 3:15 and then 4:30, and I just saw 3:15 on both of them, so I assumed it was 2.
No.
Mr. Murdoch?
You know, on the way in here this morning, I was talking to the person. I kind of want to talk to Bo and a little bit about this program after I talked to Mr. Sargent, who's a friend of mine up at St. Ignatius in the Harmony program. And I had been part of this process for a while when I was in Libby. We had, and there's a question I'll come up with, but we
Mr.
were
Baker?
part of the graduation.
Mr. Baker?
We're actually going to talk about Harmony towards the bottom, so if you could hold that, then we can engage in that conversation with you. Harmony is actually an agenda item, so please hold that. We do want to talk about it.
All right, that sounds good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Meredith, would you like to give us your report?
Sure. Well, we're at the end of the year, and so there's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts, a lot of end of the year things in every classroom. I'm going to try to keep this somewhat short. We have something every night this week. We have our elementary concert tomorrow night. We have our elementary track day on Wednesday. And then the end of the year barbecue, last day of the year on Thursday. And we release at 1 o'clock, well, 1:15. Buses run at 1:15, so I would say we release at 1:15. So yeah, it's a really busy week. Been a good May. May is always very busy. Just finished up the 6th grade camp out, which I mentioned to you guys at the last board meeting. It was a success again this year, and just very thankful for a lot of the parents and family members that helped out. We really appreciate that. Without that help, We would not be able to do that, and so very thankful. It's really a great experience. I would consider it like the capstone experience for our elementary students as they get ready to jump into junior high. Really neat. And the last thing is, after this week is over, of course, the students are gone, a lot of us are still here, and we're happy about that. And next week, we have some trainings that we have planned for our teaching staff. We have adopted a new reading program, and so we will be doing a reading training next week. We also have a new junior high math program that we will be having a training on next week, so still busy. So, really good end of the year, so thank you.
Things have gone well in the high school. Wrapped up for sports, but Russell will tell you about that in a moment. Our music students who went to state, our flutists received a superior rating, which is one of the top ratings that you can receive there, and they did an amazing job. Our soloist sang, and she did an amazing job, so I was really proud of those students who persevered throughout the year and finished strong in their music program. I'm pretty sure that 28 out of 29 for sure are graduating, which is pretty exciting. There's one who's still on the fence, but we're pushing. So graduation is a success, a high graduation rate. Our Montana Cares program will continue throughout the summer. So we've hooked up some students with the links to help them, so if they need some kind of mental health support during the summer, they have access to that Montana Cares year round. And like Mr. Meredith mentioned, we'll be barbecuing on Thursday, right around noon, so, or 11:30, so, come and have lunch with us. Report from our athletic director.
Oh, as long as we're talking about graduation, I just went to St. Regis's yesterday, they had 16 graduates. Every single one of those kids had a Gear Up scholarship. And I'm wondering why our school isn't involved in Gear Up. It was anywhere from $500 to $1,000 per student. They had 16 graduates, and I think as I did the math in my head, those 16 graduates were looking at almost $500,000 of scholarship money, which I thought was pretty darn impressive for a little school, and I'm just wondering, if that's something that we could look into, of being a Gear Up school. I know Thompson Falls does it. There's big money out there for these kids, and it's cosmetology school, and it's trade school, and it's college, and it's all of it. And I think we're missing the boat. Really? Okay. Bummer. Russell?
All right, almost wrapped up with spring sports, baseball, finished up at the beginning of last week, the second season in 3 years. They're hoping to build that program up still. Golf went to divisionals in Eureka, and we had a couple underclassmen narrowly miss out on making it to state, so that's pretty exciting for the future of that program too. Softball won their playing game at divisionals, and then they went to Florence and almost upset Troy. They had a really good showing in their last game. And then the only sport we still have going is track. State this weekend will be in Missoula, and there's 15 athletes qualified for that. And then after that, this summer, we're just working on finalizing fall and winter sports schedules and looking forward to the new year.
You know what, I have a question for track. Why do they not get to stay, do they get to stay, and why is that?
Well, it's not fiscally responsible.
Even if they have to be there early in the morning to weigh in their shot puts and discs and all that kind of stuff, and all the other teams stay, and so we don't, I heard it wasn't in the budget.
I mean, that's where we're at. It's not in the budget. And I'll say, as a former athlete and coach, I don't think it's more beneficial to have our students sleep 3 or 4 in a hotel room an hour and a half away rather than their own bed.
Okay, I just talked to some other people that are going, as in some of the coaches, and they disagree, but hey, maybe next year might be in the budget.
seeing this on the budget, is there a way that parents, and I know that some of these, like softball has an account that has money in it. So those are things that lack of communication all around that we've been experiencing all year would be great to know. That way it can be a decision made together, and then parents and people can show up to support it. I think that's something to look forward to in the future.
I would like to say, so when we did the budgets, there was postseason in the budget, but I think what Russell said was that it wasn't fiscally responsible that close, so I kinda see a little bit of a differentiation there, but I don't know, so that would be an admin thing, but
Yeah, and the
we did budget postseason expenses in the budget as a board and as a school.
And the conversation was about 2 hours and looking at that, but never to put children at risk. Because in one case, there was, last year, it was really bad, they were coming home, it was really bad, they couldn't, ice storm, you don't play with people's safety. So the kids stopped and they got motel rooms. This would be, again, in conversation, it was, you can be home in 2 hours, you will be sleeping in your own bed. They thought this would be better for the students to be in their own bed, sleeping, getting ready, getting somewhat a better night's rest than if they were in a hotel. They could do that when they win and they go further. We're not trying to take anything away from young people. We just want, what they, in my mind, they win every time they go out the door. So, I think it's just something that we have to look and just see where we are not hurting any child, but we're being saving a little bit money here or there. So when they do go to the state and they do go to further places and they need the money, we'll have it for them. But we are working on a policy or to have some direction to say, if you have this money, here are the ways that would be acceptable, and the board would have to approve that. Here's the acceptable way of spending it, so it's not frivolous, because the money has, been there, and then now they have that option to work with it and raise money as well. Lonnie?
So you're saying 2 hours. Florence was more than 2 hours away for softball, and they had money, so just throwing that out there.
Well, yeah, and the whole thing, that whole trip was 12 hours that day. They left at 6, they got back at 6 that night. And they would have gotten back sooner, but they wanted to see the game of the team that they were playing the next day, so
That's
that.
all part of the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but again, it worked out well for them to get back.
And I will say, one of the issues with that trip, the bus ride itself wouldn't take more than 2 hours, but there's no bathroom on the charter bus, so they have to stop to go to the bathroom. And so we're not
More
gonna
than 2 hours on
include
Google.
that into.
Google Maps, Trista, because I checked it when we went to go down there, put it like just under 2 hours. I totally,
2 hours and 2 minutes.
I totally understand your frustration. I get it. I do.
Well, that's fine.
And I would just say that.
But when I talked to them, it took 2 hours and 13 minutes to get there for the coach.
Part of the postseason experience is the memories you make. Part of it is learning how to conduct yourselves as good citizens in a motel and be good roommates, and it preps you for that college experience where you have to share a space and share a bathroom and share all those things. And our kids don't get a lot of experience to do that, so when they actually earn that opportunity, I think you'd see this community show out and show up if it meant passing the hat to get it done. But there has to be some little proactive planning to do that if it's not in the budget. But I do think there's value in it and it's important. And I think if you ask anybody who was involved in extracurriculars in their entire life, what their memories were, some of it's gonna be the fun of that camaraderie that you build outside of the mat, the court, the diamond, the pitch, whatever you wanna call it. And I'm sad that we're shortchanging our kids on that, especially when they've earned a state.
Quite a few of them
I
have
mean,
earned
that's
a
a
state.
pinnacle, that's 15 kids, 14 kids going to state. I mean, that's an accomplishment. That's years of hard work, that's dedication, and we can't find a way to reward them with an overnight and a meal out where they learn how to do all those things that are beyond the classroom. It's sad.
Larry Joe, food services director.
Just wanted to update on the food service program and where we're at. I mentioned.
Can I ask you to speak up?
I mentioned, the last meeting that in February, we went into February with a deficit, found out we had a deficit. We're, narrowing that down to, get to an exact number. We're not quite there yet, but it's getting really close. And right now it was approximately just over $36,000 that we were in the hole. So that's when we implemented breakfast in the classroom, February, and we made some adjustments. So I talked about that the last school board meeting, February. We ended up losing $52 and some change. March, we, gained $166 and some change. And then April, we were $7,168 and some change in the positive. So that was a huge accomplishment for March, and that, some of you, all of you might think, how did that happen, right? So it was a lot of things, breakfast in the classroom, a lot of, changes we made, as far as the service, moving some things around, and, anyway, so that's where we're at for, April. And, so that took a big chunk out of the $36,000. So now we have to decide whether we're gonna operate the CEP program or just go back to the old program. And I have lots of numbers and facts to share with you that I would like to visit with you if you're interested, so that you have the information you need to make an educated, good decision going forward. Because I think it's really important that we all know the information, because there's a lot of, there's a handful of things that are very important in making the decision on which way to go. And, that application, is due July 1st, so we're gonna have to get on that pretty soon.
Putting that down for June's meeting, can you have all of that together to share with us at the June meeting?
We'll send it to you in a packet, we'll put it out there so everybody can see it.
If anyone had a hard time hearing that, she made a huge dent in the $36,000 deficit that the school program had, and in fact, had over $7,000 to the good just in April. So the things that the school has implemented, and Lori Jo herself, like breakfast in the classroom, has been extremely successful. She should. I put a microphone in front of her, but I don't have one. Okay. New business, board recognition of students.
We want to come in June, but that's what I think the commission this week.
Okay.
It's signed by the previous.
Yes, oh, sign these. These are, you're gonna wanna put these out on eBay. Okay, so do you do this, Dr. Walsh?
No, you just board
Oh, I
them.
have to
Just
like
board them.
tell them who they are and what they're for? Oh, dear. Okay. Okay, so, Sean O'Keefe got first place for the state VFW patriotic artwork. I don't see him here. That's pretty awesome. So-
They were called earlier, it wasn't just today, they did call.
Right, yes, we did make sure they had plenty days' notice to know that this was happening. Mrs. Cockrell's fourth grade class, for raising and donating $427 for tracks. I like that. No fourth graders here, okay? Oh, this is, oh, okay. Shay Nelson, first place for the Congressional Art Competition. Okay, what's next one? Is this one? There we go. I did that one, okay. And Tia Bellinger, second place Congressional Art Competition. I do love that Dr. Walsh instituted the board recognition for students. I think that that is the highlight of most of our meetings. That is really important. Okay, on to approval of the 25-26 school calendar. Now, hear a motion to accept that before we discuss it.
I make a motion to approve the 25-26 school calendar.
Second. Any comments on the school calendar? exact same as it was
When
from
does
last year.
school start and when does it end? We don't know what's on the calendar.
It's perfect, so it was the exact same, this, we took what the teachers requested, which is the exact same calendar from this year, so there won't be any changes. First day of school will be the 25th of August, last day of school will be the 21st, it looks like, and then high school graduation will be on May 24th, so it's very similar.
See Mr. Cole nodding.
Online? Yeah.
Recall.
Is it on? Catherine says it is on, she put it on herself. Oh, Drayton put it on.
I tried to look it up, and I actually got a mail from.
Would you like a copy?
Copy?
I'm just saying that for what I saw, to get it,
Yeah.
I'm
Here.
happy to have a copy.
You can have mine, I looked at it when we were doing the.
And we'll check it
negotiations, so
tomorrow
I
and make
have
sure.
it.
It's on there.
It's on there, I saw it.
But I'd like to,
Yeah.
so we don't have that.
It was already on there. You guys just
That's the
started
first two.
getting it.
It's on there.
It's on there.
It is on there? Okay.
Yep.
They found it on there, so it is
Yep,
online.
it's on there.
Well, I guess I looked at the wrong thing, because I really
Okay.
looked at pictures of
Hey,
it.
that's okay, yeah. I didn't look for it, so I'm not sure if it's on there.
I did look.
We can-
look for it.
Perfect.
And it came up as no preview available when I went to the website.
On the, agenda? So it should be down on the
I was- I
school
was
board
looking.
agenda?
Oh,
that's
I
okay.
didn't look at some of this.
Agendas, school board, home.
And then when I hit the thing that's not available, this is what came up. That for May 22, which I didn't think was,
Yeah, no, that's 2022, not today.
no, but it's what came up on
Huh.
the today.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Okay, appreciate it.
Some people found it.
Sometimes technology does whatever.
Technology.
On that Facebook. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a vote on the, calendar. Huh? Steve and Ellen.
Steve,
Yes.
Ellen.
Yes.
Monica.
Yes.
Colleen. Yes.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna move on to personnel. Teacher resignation, Jessica Jones.
I move we accept Jessica Jones' resignation, but with regrets.
I'll second.
Any comments? Okay.
I have a comment.
Oh,
I know my son was in Jessica's class and he speaks very highly of her. Matter of fact, when he came home and told his mom, he had a little tear in his eyes. And so thank you for being you.
Thank you.
Very appreciative.
We wish you the best.
Ellen.
Yes.
Monica.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Colleen. Yes. Lana.
yes. Okay. Junior high school basketball coach resignation, Kevin Meredith. Are you sure?
For sure.
You can always put your name back.
Not that I didn't have fun, but.
I made a motion to, accept, Kevin Meredith's resignation for junior high basketball coach.
I'll second.
All that free time you're gonna have?
It's a huge paycheck you're walking away from, friend. Comments?
I wanna say really quick before, I've watched him do the program and Kevin, you've done a great job doing that program. I understand your child's moving up, so trying to pass the hat on to somebody else next to it, but I appreciate it. Yes.
Yes.
Ellen, yes.
Colleen. Yes. Lana.
Yes. You know, I think we're just gonna table, so the 25-26 classified staff, we had non-rehires, I think we're going to table that. Last year, we sort of ran into some goofy tape and we were informed that we actually should not be voting on this every year because most of these people, in fact, maybe even all of them, have to have a cause to let go, so we're not really renewing it. So I think we'll table this and confirm that we don't have to vote on it. or if there are specific people who are not in that category, that's when we're gonna remove them. It's not that we don't want to, dear God, please don't take that.
There was a situation happened last year where somebody was removed for being related to somebody and it messed a bunch of stuff up.
Yeah, and apparently we don't have to vote on that because these are for-cause employees, so we'll table that and just confirm we don't have to vote on that.
I do have a question.
Mhm.
On the daycare paraprofessional, pending daycare enrollment, how many do we need in order to maintain that position?
The para,
Dr. Walsh?
did you say the para?
For the
For the
daycare.
daycare, how
daycare?
many students do we need in the daycare to have the daycare position open?
At least three.
At least three?
3 or 4.
Okay, do you know how many we are looking at?
I don't know. It's gonna be
Probably, we'll confirm then, then we'll continue with the
Thank you.
Okay, consideration and possible action to increase the credit limit on district credit card to $10,000 contingent on bank approval.
Okay, we have, 2 credit cards. One is from a company that we have a credit limit of 50,000, that's the one that's 25, because they're full card. And it's 26 possible teachers can use that. Teachers, counselors, coaches, traffic education, drama, music trips, National Honor Society, senior class trip, these are all the things that the cost comes for credit card. Now, that money gets reimbursed when we raise money and we have money, but when they go out to, for example, Skills USA has been knocking it dead with all of the awards and things. When they fly, they need a chunk, they need a decent chunk to have available on a credit card so they have no worries. When they get the motel rooms and book that, they need that. So that's the only reason we're asking. That's one card. The other card has a $20,000 limit. Yeah, the 20,000, and then we have another one that's 4 cards, and if we had 2 cards with $20,000, 25 on one and 20 on the other, we could do it. What does this mean? It means, so for example, and I'm just using it because it's the most prevalent in my mind, right? When you go to Atlanta with 11 kids, you need 11 and tickets for 11 students and the chaperones, and you need to have easy access to the money. The people can't go out worrying whether or not they have access to the money for their food, their rooms, and it's costly. Success is costly. So our children are successful, and we have to be able to have that leverage and support. Karen keeps a very close touch on credit cards. She, I think she makes you sign off your house to get them out of the vault half the time, and that's how we want it. But, we would like permission to just raise 1 to 25, the other one we could stay at 20, because we have a lot of expenses and costs are very high.
So we have one for $10,000 that is on our agenda. You want
I wanna
another
raise
for
one to,
25,000?
I wanna raise a 15 to 10, I wanna raise $10,000 on one card.
What is the value of that card now?
15,
You wanna raise it by 10,000?
I wanna make it 25, yes.
Oh.
And the other one's 20, and that covers everybody for
And
everything.
those cards, there's multiple cards on that.
Yes, there's multiple, there's 4 cards.
So like,
Yes.
yeah, each teacher actually has a name on the card
Mhm.
for if the border stuff or stuff like that. It's not like it's
No.
one card, and they can set the limit on each one of those cards.
Okay.
Right, yeah, and again, Mr. Mitchell, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you have to go with confidence that you have what you need
Well,
when
yeah,
you're
it was-
taking all those kids, and when I say, what do you mean, it's, we have $7,500 on that card and you need 92, you know, so, and Karen's really done a great job with monitoring it, and she gets very frustrated when she has to say, I don't know, what are we gonna do? Coach has this, and teacher needs that, and where are we gonna get the cards from? So I would appreciate if you consider that, you know, certainly contingent on banking approval, bank's approval.
So the way it reads is, you're increasing the credit limit to $10,000, but you're actually trying to increase the credit limit
Yeah,
to 25.
Yes, we're increasing the 15,000, yes, so we have to
So
correct
is
that.
that an issue with the agenda item?
I would think not if they, make the motion to increase it by 10,000 instead of to 10,000.
Oh, good. Okay, I know what, I think we need to know what it was.
Yes, 15,000.
Yeah, and that should be safe.
So, did we make a motion on that yet? Okay, I would entertain a motion to increase the limit by $10,000. No, I can't give the motion. I would entertain a motion. Okay.
I'll make a motion to increase it by $10,000 on both cards.
I second.
Is this on one?
Yes, just on one.
Yeah,
just on one. Just on one.
She said on both.
Oh, there's multiple cards, but it's one
It's
account.
on the, yeah, it's
Oh,
on.
okay.
it's
Actually,
the bank
multiple
card.
cards, I'm told.
Okay. On one then.
Yeah, on the account. Okay. The district credit card? So it sounds like it's one account that has multiple cards attached to the one account. Right. So it's to their ability to have 25,000 instead of 15,000 on the cards to the one account. On all the cards?
It's four accounts tied to that 15,000, four cards. So if we need $15,000 for airfare and hotels, we've shot that right on one program.
Right.
If the seniors need money for graduation or prom or National Honor Society needs something, we need to have access. We have 26 cards tied to one account, and we have 4 cards tied to another account. So, again.
This account is the one with the 4 cards attached to it.
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, this is the one with 4 cards, making it 15 to 25.
For each card.
No. One account.
Overall.
One account
$10,000.
that has 4 cards tied to it.
Alright. Could you read back that motion so we make sure we have it correct?
No,
No, I
that's
don't
okay.
know what it is. Yeah. She just needs to amend it. Amend it to amend it.
Okay, I make a motion, or should I say amend it or just start over? Amend it to $10,000 on one card.
To increase the credit limit.
But I don't have it as a card.
15, 25.
Or the one account. I could tell by the conversation, it didn't sound kind of like that, it was 2 different accounts. Okay, do we have the, motion corrected?
Monica? Yes. Steve?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Colleen? Yes. Diana?
Yes. Okay, next item, consideration and possible action to contract with A&B Consulting LLC to assist with fiscal year end, including June payrolls, federal programs, cash requests, and reporting and trustees summary preparation.
I move we accept that contract. Can I ask, where are they out of?
Give me 1 second, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, okay, Betty Taylor?
Where is A Consulting out of?
Kalispell.
Kalispell?
So that's Gwen Anderson, you said?
Yeah. Did you say Gwen Anderson? Gwen Anderson.
I'm familiar with her, she's amazing.
She is.
Any other comments, questions about A and B?
So is this just until we hire a business
Yes.
manager? And is there like an end date on this?
Not yet.
So
Until
what's
it's
the
filled.
fee?
Well, right now, we're hoping to get this, just to get June payroll and the trustee, I'm sorry. Yeah, the federal program cash request and the trustee summary preparation, so that would be July. But she just wants 2 weeks, we can give her 2 weeks and she can, she'll go.
And the contract can be terminated with 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
By either
So
party.
once we have someone in place, and we get training for them.
And there's some per diem and some mileage associated
So $68 plus fee and plus mileage.
as needed.
And some of it she's doing remotely, so we have no mileage.
Wow.
Ellen?
Yes.
Monica? Yes. Steve?
Yes.
Colleen? Yes. Diana?
Yes. Okay, Consideration and possible action to approve addendum to agreement between Plains Public Schools District Number 1 and the Sanders County Treasurer.
This was a contract that, as you see in the packet, was signed in June 2022. It was a 3-year contract for the district to independently invest their money locally, not with the county. And that was a contract that was signed. It's up June 30th, 2025. We needed to extend that and have an addendum so that we could continue being independent and investing our monies locally. So that's why you have the addendum there to allow that to happen.
So who, excuse me.
Can we take a motion to, let us do our motion so that we can open it up for discussion?
Okay, I move that we accept the addendum agreement between Plains Public School District and the Sanders County Treasurer as presented.
I second. Oh, sorry, you go.
I get to do it.
You're on the
Okay, Betty Taylor.
Well, no, I just have a question, so when we invest independently, so, who is in charge of that with the school clerk being gone? I am very concerned about that. Do we wanna do an addendum, or do we want the county to do it in the transition mode?
We can't.
Just because.
Sorry. We needed to do this by April 1st if anything was gonna change. We missed the deadline to even open ourselves and allow ourselves to be considered with the, because all this change happened the end of March. So we weren't able to engage in even asking to be part of that thing. We had to at least establish ourselves. Again, who will do that? I would think between now and hopefully July or August, we'll have a business manager, or we can get good guidance. And from this present person who's helping us, they're 40 years of business manager, they work in 2 other districts, they've helped in 2 other districts. They come highly recommended from Hasbro. So it's not just somebody who looks for an easy gig after they're retired.
Well, that's good, because, you know, we're a small district without a school clerk. I'm concerned about the board and everyone about judiciary responsibility and the possibility of embezzlement. You know, you need to be very, and I'm not saying it would be done intentionally, but we wanna make sure that every I is dotted, every T is crossed, so nobody is put in that position.
I appreciate that, and I think even with Whitley and with more eyes on everything that we've started, I think we're gonna get exactly what you're speaking of. We have to look at every dime, we have to look at every penny, and everything is equally important. We're drilling down now to everything and anything going back and making sure that the foundation that's gonna be built, that's being built on, that was left, is being built on and strengthened. So I totally agree with you.
Can I just say something? Just so that you guys know, just in my little area, there's a lot of finances involved. And, we need to structure and build, and that's exactly what we're moving towards. And I can speak to that, and in the financial part of just mine, is that we're trying to move towards a better structure, better foundation, just like you're saying needs to happen. That is exactly what needs to happen, and that is what's gonna start happening. So, just so that you guys know that I'm seeing it with my program, and I'm assuming that across the board it will be the same, and we need it desperately.
I'm curious why it's a 1-year addendum and not another 3-year agreement like we usually do with the county. It is quite a process, to speak what Betty said, it's quite a process to move your money away from the county. I assume quite a process to move it back.
Well, yeah, I think we have to let you know by April 1st of the next year, whether or not, and this is just for now, so the board could have conversation on it, because they didn't discuss it. You know, it wasn't really brought to their attention to talk about it, so this time, if they do wish to change, we'll meet the deadline in time.
So we're only doing 1 year just so there's an opportunity to discuss whether it wants to be continued.
And find out, yes, find out where we stand.
I will say we went from earning hundreds of dollars of interest to thousands every month, so just so the board is aware of that, when we move the money to manage it ourselves. And it's not that difficult. I feel like, of course, I never knew the other way, because Jenny had changed it right before I started, about 5 months before I started. But it's simple because we have access to our own money, so in my mind, it's simpler and easier and you earn better interest. I don't know instead of another 3-year agreement.
Yeah, it
Well,
doesn't.
What I'm looking at doesn't tell me that we're doing it 1 year. It
Oh,
says,
okay.
Now therefore, in consideration of mutual promises, the parties agree to extend the term of agreement for a subsequent 3-year term commencing on July 1st, 2025 until June 30th, 2028.
Good, unless we wanna change it. And with Fleet also is having a voice on this, the new, accountants looking at it and seeing how we do and what we do. So it's all coming together a little bit stronger, tighter maybe.
Sorry, that was my misunderstanding. I thought it was just being amended for 1 year for some reason.
Well, it says an addendum to the agreement, but then here in this paragraph 3, it says till June 2028. Well,
And then it can keep rolling over every 2 years after that unless we decide to change it, so.
We meet the deadline to change.
With all of this change in our business office and all of these considerations, we just changed, financial auditors to the tune of an additional $9,000 a year baseline. That was without anything additional. Do we have a handle on how much more it's gonna cost us for audit services on top of the additional 9,000 that was decided on?
Not yet.
Not yet, but I'm not sure that that's connected to, well, a particular thing on.
I guess I'm just talking about there's all this upheaval in our business office, we're having a consultant for we're writing these addendums and audits are coming, and this is the time of year it happens, and I'm just wondering if there's like money to pay that additional on top of that 9,000 that was already more than the previous auditor services we were using.
It sounds like what we're voting is to not change anything right now. We're gonna go the course with this particular addendum. It's just staying with what we've been doing, so there's not a big change. We'll just continue what we're doing. And hopefully we continue getting the thousands versus hundreds of dollars.
I don't think we're changing the county too, so it's the ones we're talking
Yeah,
about.
so,
but-
yeah, so I'm glad we're not changing anything right now. Any other questions?
Ellen?
yes.
Colleen? Yes. Monica? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, consideration and possible action to contract with Harmony Educational Services for the 2025-2026 school year. We take a motion on that before we start discussing.
Why do we need a motion to consider?
We have to have a motion to discuss it, and then we vote on, yes, we want to or not, because in here it says we have possible action. So we make the motion, and then we discuss it, and then we vote.
I move we table this till we have more information on details of funding and dynamics between the schools and the Harmony program.
And do you feel like you didn't get that in the documents given to you?
I'd like to vote on it. I'd like
Pretty
to
quickly, actually, yeah.
to make a motion that we, approve our.
Didn't Dylan move to table it?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a
Tabled by
motion.
the chair. It's not tabled by anybody else.
I mean,
Tabled by
I
the
mean,
chair.
not table it. Should we not table it? She made the motion. I move that we do have the discussion.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Yep. Okay. Can we make the motion?
Yeah, I made a motion, we just need a second.
Second.
Okay, so let's have that conversation. Okay, so Ellen, what questions do you have about it, so maybe we can get that answered tonight, and we don't have to keep taking it down. And if we need to, we can.
Okay, I don't understand the funding structure. I don't know where the money comes in, I don't know where it goes out, I don't know how it's dispersed to the parents or back to the school.
Okay.
And I did not get that from any of the information in the packets or that I could find online.
Okay, so I'll try and kick it as best I can, and Dr. Walsh, if I get it wrong, go ahead and, we started having this conversation at our budget workshop meetings after Mr. Baker brought it to our attention as something to look at. From what I understand for funding, the school brings in the A and B money for
How?
each student, because the students are enrolled in Plains school districts.
It's the homeschool students?
They enroll with us first, and then they enroll with Harmony and can choose which track they wanna go from. From that, the kids that we get enrolled, quack, quack, quack. He's gonna enroll in school next, just so we can take this phone from him. So let's say you have a high school student who enrolls, and let's just ballpark, if
In the
A
high
and B
school.
is about $8,000.
In the high school.
We're gonna kick it with a high school student currently. Okay. So let's say A and B is around $8,000. What we do then is, when Harmony takes on a student, we pay them so much of that A and B money, so it's like 20,
31 if it's our, if
if they're the teacher.
It's 28 if it's
we're-
their teacher, it's 31 we get more if we use our teacher.
So we pay them a little bit less if we have the teacher on record, which that was written in here, I did read that. And then out of the money that Harmony gets, the families that choose to enroll have
In
access to
what?
about $1,800 for approved educational expenses. So right now you have homeschool students who are in homeschool, they are paying taxes, we don't get the A and B money for it, and they pay their homeschool out of pocket. This is an opportunity where the small amount that Harmony takes to host this, those families can then request, have some of those educational expenses paid for, like if they were taking dual credit classes, if they needed a computer, anything that would be approved educational expenses, then they have up to $1,800 out of the small pot that goes
But
to Harmony.
Harmony does that, we don't.
Correct, Harmony
Harmony's in
manages
control
all of that.
We're not.
Okay, who teaches the kids?
Depends on what track they go. So if they are a track one that is all home-based, it's all online with Harmony. If they go
And we
track
get-
two,
And we get no money.
we get all the money, we get the A and B, and then we pay them
If
so
they're
much
home,
per student.
if they're all in homeschool, we still get
Correct,
A and B.
they are enrolled as plain students. Correct, at a student school. If they go track two, this is a hybrid, this is for like your special education students. These are ones who will have to come in to get their 504s and IEP needs met. They'll work with their special education teacher and the IEP board. Students who maybe wanna come in and take some classes, maybe they wanna take physics, or they wanna do a dual credit here. And then you have track three students who can be all at home, or do a hybrid, but these are actual Plains High School graduate students who are on track to get a diploma from our school.
And the
Those are good
curriculum,
tracks.
I'm sorry, the curriculum, if they wish to be on Plains High School students, the curriculum has to be approved by the high school here, they have to meet the same standards. So just as if you were taking a course in another place and said, I had philosophy 101 already, what does your philosophy 101 look like? They have to look at the requirements, and it has to be accepted by the Plains School District that they meet the requirements to get a diploma from our school.
And they have to announce that at the end of 8th grade, if they're going to go the diploma in the Plains High School track. So it's not something they just come in last year and do that.
Glenn, have you, presented this information to the, is there a homeschool association?
So Dr. Walsh has met with some of the people involved with the homeschool program, has shared some of the information, and if we choose to pass it, Harmony will actually come and do an entire presentation. We're gonna try and get it at the pavilion so that it is neutral ground to invite staff, community members, homeschool, to all come and ask questions and learn about it.
Well, the strength of this program would be to somehow, to get some of these kids into our school system and receive some of the A and B money. These are kids who have not been in our system, who might be attracted to this program. But what I would caution you about is don't let this program become the monster that eats your other programs. What I mean by that, maybe I can best phrase that by an example. I was, in the previous school where I was kind of a dean of students, I participated in, what we call the credit recovery program at the time, where we contracted, certain sources. Harmony is not one of them, but these were actually universities. And, our at-risk committee identified certain kids. It was part of our Graduation Matters program, and our at-risk committee identified a number of kids that were in jeopardy of not graduating. We met with those kids and their parents, and we set up what was called the credit recovery, and we contracted with this university. And if a kid was like failing in English, they had an English packet for him to do. If he was failing in, government, there was a government packet that he would do. And they just went to a classroom, they had access to computers. I actually monitored the classroom. They just did their packets. They scored their test on a computer, and then all I did was mark off when they completed the packet. It sounds like a pretty good program, but these were all mostly juniors and seniors. But in the devious mind of teenagers, you can imagine what happened. There were so many of these kids that liked this program. The word got out and they were talking to their buddies, hey, you need to get into Baker's Credit Recovery, it's way better. And so we literally had other juniors and seniors that were shutting down in English classes, in government classes, and they were, because they wanted to get on the at-risk thing so they could get into this credit recovery program, because they liked that better.
The beauty of this program is our school gets to decide what students qualify to go into it. We can set the parameter that they have to be in homeschool 1 full year before they can even enroll in it. So there is some safeguards to make sure we don't want to lose brick and mortar students to this program, and they don't want to pull brick and mortar students from our school to their program. That is not the goal, and we as a school get to captain that, and we get to decide, does this student qualify for this program? Is this something we're going to allow them to do? And then on a case-by-case basis, be able to give an exemption, maybe for that 1 year, if there's a student who needs it for medical reasons or something else. But the school gets a whole lot of control over that to make sure that doesn't happen. That is one of our teacher concerns that we made sure to address in detail with Harmony and Corvallis superintendent.
And if I can, there are assessments that are built in that they have to take and follow, and then we have to, a teacher of record has to check it. It's not, I understand the packets, I remember that, you know, and that became a whole other, took on a whole life of itself. But this is really to structure instruction for some young people and get them into the building, so that if we can, they'll see what they can do, you know, with Harmony, but they wanna take some of our shop classes, they wanna take some of our, you know, art classes or our music classes. They wanna be able to do that, and that might entice, if you will, invite them in. I look at it as, it would be a wonderful opportunity for our district to create a partnership with the homeschool population and serve all the children, especially with technology in the way that, you can go online and do every degree you want online now as an adult, and I would hate for us to miss out on an opportunity.
One other quick question. Did you ever ask them, because ideally you want them to be part of your student body as a full student and receive all the A and B money. Did they ever talk about a percentage of kids that went into the program that elected to transfer out of the Harmony program and just like register at school?
That was not something we asked. We focused on the other side, how many of them left brick and mortar to go to Harmony, and the number was pretty low.
And they haven't really been around as long, 2 years. You know, some of them are here 2 years, they may be starting their third, so it's kind of hard to get that data, but certainly something we would want to
Something we could ask.
look at and ask about.
Because I think they've been in Utah 15 years. I mean, they're not a new program,
Utah,
they're just new
Wyoming,
in
and it's just
Montana.
breaking into Montana.
I have a question. How did we land on this particular program? Did we entertain other programs of this nature? How did we choose this?
This one was brought to us by Mr. Baker back there, although we did look at a program, that was out of
Flathead Valley.
Polson. And I don't know if there were any other ones. Nothing is like to this standard or this quality.
Is it because you knew other
Helena
schools
School
that
District
use
has a good
this?
one.
Yeah,
So
and
there are
East
other
Palm
schools that we know that do
There were
use
other
this.
schools that you spoke to that use this particular program?
Yes. Beth?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. So if a student, let's say they start out in the Harmony program freshman, sophomore, and then they decide they want to no longer do Harmony, they wanna be a full-time student in the regular program, is that an option?
Yeah, they would just unenroll with Harmony the next year, but they would already be enrolled with us, they're already our students.
Okay, but it doesn't work the other way, like if cause you said the school would set parameters around that?
Our school can set parameters around that if a student decides they want to go to the Harmony program, we can require that they have to do 1 year at home, not using Harmony before they're eligible for the program. That is
Or
something as
you
a
could
school
make a
can-
special
Or we can make
circumstance, okay.
special cases.
Just wanna make sure I understood that. And then my other question is there a minimum number of students that would need to be interested in doing Harmony to make it cost effective?
It doesn't cost us anything.
To pay, but what about?
Until if a child registers, we get money.
Okay,
And then we pay a portion of that
And
to
they,
Harmony.
and I understand what you're saying, so how do we lose? But it's really generated by Harmony. Harmony is really the propulsion of this.
Well, I guess I'm thinking this scenario, let's say there's one student that wants to do Harmony and are we paying that teacher? or, you know what I mean? Like,
So Harmony has their own employees, so if they do track one and they're completely online, they're at home only, they employ their own teachers, they do their own attendance, they have to follow some pretty, strict requirements, it's structured, so homeschool families would have to be willing to transition into more of a structured environment for that. They pay out of the money that they take, so if it's the 2,800 or the 3,100, depending on who the teacher of record is, out of that, they pay their teachers, that is their portion, plus the $1,800 that's available for families for reimbursable educational expenses also comes out of the chunk that goes to Harmony. We keep the $50-some hundred, that stays within the school district.
okay, but what if, but you said that there can be kids, I'm just
That
trying
do
to
hybrid,
understand.
that would
Yeah,
come
that would-
into,
and then
say in
we
your
would provide-
classroom, correct.
Okay, so we would not have a classroom here, where they would be doing their online courses.
No, they would
here.
be enrolling in your specific class.
Okay, so if they're on site, they're with one of our.
They're
thank
with the
you.
teacher that
Okay.
we're already employing, which is what we'd like to see,
Yeah.
getting them into the classroom as well.
That was our
Thank you.
biggest concern, we didn't wanna lose any jobs at the risk of this.
Nope.
So as it stands, we won't.
Yeah, that was, thank you, that was a good clarification, it was, I was under the impression that we would have a homeschool classroom here, and was wondering how we were gonna afford to pay a teacher for one student.
No, no, no.
Thank
No, and in
you.
fact, if this is something that we pass and choose to do, we'd also wanna keep our teacher of record here on site, because that's more money coming into our district, and it's just like doing the MTDA classes, that is the requirement for that teacher of record, and we already do that here.
What happens to the 1,800 per student if the parent doesn't request reimbursement?
That's with Harmony, and it would stay with Harmony, would be my guess. Harmony manages that side, not us.
So,
But I doubt.
I doubt parents would pass on that, but they're not required to utilize it. But that would be managed by Harmony.
So
if they
if you
don't do-
negotiate it, could you negotiate that in the contract, that if the parents didn't use it, that it could come back to the district? You can't negotiate that?
No.
I mean,
Goes to the Harmony side.
instead of just leaving it on the table.
It would go to Harmony's side, correct. That would be something that is not within our wheelhouse that we could even request to have.
Speaking to that, the reviews I read, there were quite a few parents upset that they were not getting their reimbursement as promised, and it was just an additional side revenue stream for Harmony that they were sold on, and it was partially sold on by the district. So I think we wanna be careful of managing those expectations and finding out exactly what is, is my kid's, lift ticket to Big Mountain a PE expense?
Probably not.
But I think you have to manage those,
So-
because as
They
a
have
district, we're selling this program.
They
and
give
if-
some specific requirements of what is reimbursable and what isn't. So you would want, if you want something reimbursed that you're not purchasing through them, you would be asking that before you purchased it. Is this a reimbursable?
Well, cause I wondered
They
about,
found
when
it
I
out.
looked at the internet on the reviews, I thought internet would be a reimbursable thing because it's homeschool, all of that. And it looked to me like it was exactly the same as a business, where 10%, so, you wouldn't get the full amount of the cell phone or the computer or whatever, you only got a certain percentage, and I think that's where the concern is with the parents. They think they're gonna get a computer, they think they're gonna get, internet, so I verified that,
Right,
just
so
to make sure,
at
because
this
I think that could convolute the whole program.
At this point, that would be between the parent that chooses to enroll in Harmony, we can't control that, but at this point, the parent isn't even getting 10% of that internet, so it is still something better than that homeschool parent is getting currently.
But I think if we have this joint meeting, like a town meeting almost, these are the kinds of things that
You
you've
would ask
spoken
Harmony.
about. Directly to Harmony, they'll come to the meeting, it won't be one of these Zooms, they'll physically come. So we can physically answer and share that.
And you do that before you did the contract with them?
They would do it after we pass the contract, they would come here to present
Oh,
so that
you
we
do
would.
it after the contract?
Correct, they would come down after we had the contract, and then those parents can ask those questions, what's reimbursable, what isn't. We have asked, and they do have things that you can get that are all reimbursable, and other things you have to request if it's reimbursable or not.
Can we ask them to come as a condition of the contract?
Yes.
So that we can talk to the homeschool community first,
Yeah.
make sure there's an interest?
They will come if we ask them.
If we ask
Yes.
them before we sign up.
That makes more sense.
Before you sign up. We've we've had Zooms with them, we've had.
Yeah, they've had
meetings with
lots
them.
of conversations
They'll-
with
they'll
us.
come, they'll come.
But you did say, if I understood you right, now, you said you did have to sign the contract before they came.
No, it says they've had lots of conversations with us. My guess is if we're going to do the big town hall meeting thing, that will be after we sign the contract, when they come to.
But the request is saying that before we sign anything, let's
Can
be
you
sure.
ask about those
Yeah,
reimbursable
and so
things?
I think that, you know, certainly with the board's permission, I have no problem calling them tomorrow and
Yeah.
saying we are at the point when we wanna have that meeting. We can, you know, we could go to the, we said the pavilion when we were on the Zoom, just so homeschool folks wouldn't feel like we're trying to trap them into an environment. And let them ask these questions and say, and I'll tell them quite pointedly, this is one of our concerns. We wanna know how that $1,800 is being afforded to to the parents who are involved in this. Because we don't want it to come back on the district saying that we were told we could buy a laptop and they said no. So I think we need more definitive, we need some more definitive, information on that piece, and I'll call tomorrow.
If I'm understanding correctly, the school is attempting to provide an opportunity for homeschool children to participate with the district and the school to make money in that, or to receive money in that process.
Correct.
If you moving forward with it, there's no outflow of cash from the school without a student
Without enrollment.
participating.
Correct.
And a student participating is between the school, is between the parent and Harmony.
We are completely out of that. We don't get to say what is reimbursable, what isn't. That is between
So what
Harmony
is
and the
the
parents.
downside? What is the downside to the school in participating?
I think one of the questions brought up is the part of how credible is the $1,800. We've said it, you know, we've talked about it, but indeed, is there something concrete that we can say to a homeschool parent, $1,800, you may purchase the following, or you will be reimbursed for the following hardcore information. If it says, you know, if they have their own vendors, and that's probably what they do because they get it in bulk and they do it in that way. You know, if they say you could go to Dell for this laptop if you need it, you could go to Texas Instrument for this calculator if you need it. You know, I think that's what people want clarified.
Right, but I'm still not seeing a downside for the school's participation. That's between the parent and Harmony.
Yeah, well, they're saying
Not the
reputation.
Just reputation maybe, but there'd be no financial, any downside to the school.
Okay, and could the school walk away from the what is, if it doesn't work, what is the out?
It's
That
a
the school
very
out?
thick contract with very specific
Okay.
rules around.
And I think it's
And
a
what is
three-year
legal?
contract.
It's a 3-year contract. What?
We didn't share anything yet because we're still in the conversation.
Discussing. Okay, well, it doesn't seem like, okay, sorry, I've had a couple of questions. In a previous meeting, there was issue brought up about student-teacher ratio and with the loss of teachers. And now, I think I heard you say today, Lana, that a teacher will be responsible for reviewing and deciding some things. So what effect is it gonna have on the time that a teacher would normally dedicate to school students?
Okay, Dr. Chu, answer that?
At our last discussion, the teacher of record, they actually identified an administrator, the high school principal, would be going, as they go over assessment, as they go over data, as they go over report cards.
Okay.
Because you're not talking 150 kids,
No,
right? We're talking really nice. We're talking a small number of students, certainly to start. They have one school in Wyoming, they have 2 students enrolled. And again, that's something to see if it takes, you know, if it takes root or not.
I come from Wyoming, my family is involved in school in Wyoming. And I know a homeschool in Wyoming, a homeschooler can get $7,000, goes strictly to the parent.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know what happens in Montana, is this money coming to you instead of the parent in this?
The parents don't get any money.
Montana
They
doesn't
don't?
have $0 follow the student in Montana.
Okay, so it can be work in their advantage in that regard.
Correct.
Okay,
It
I'm
does
just
give them
trying to
access to some of that
understand the
finance.
And there are some who make a business, they have 3 children, they're, you know, they're bringing in some money, that helps them, and I respect that, because things are very difficult, so, you
Well,
know.
but if it's, there are problems with the one in Wyoming, to my understanding, and I'm certainly no expert on it, that the lack of holding credible teachers teaching requirements to homeschool there is falling through the cracks at this point in time, I guess is the best I can say. I'm just, so I wanted to
Montana,
clarify that.
yeah, has not had strict, but they have passed some right,
But they
new
don't,
legislation to make it more
if a parent
structured.
is homeschooling now, they don't get money from the state.
Correct.
Okay, so
This
there's not
gives
that,
them
they're
access to a
not gonna
little
feel
bit.
like you're taking money away from them.
I think one of the best things to do is, because I wanna be sure you have definitive answers. I think the best thing to do would be to get the folks here, so that you can ask that same question in that manner and get from the horse's mouth, if you will.
I think that's a great
What the-
idea.
what the
Dr.
answer
Walsh,
should
But it has
be.
to be before you sign the contract.
Absolutely,
Right.
oh, yeah,
Well, that's, I heard my friend say that it has to be, that they.
Yeah,
sign
no,
the
we
contract.
will,
Really quickly,
And I-
we will
that
see
makes
so
that they
sense
can
to
get
me.
it rolling this fall. Or not.
I will
Yeah, I do
call
have
you
one
tomorrow
other
morning.
question.
We'll see if they can come between now and next board meeting, because we definitely wanna get the ball rolling on this if we're going to do it.
I think that having the idea, I do want to ask you, you said that a bunch of other schools have used it, have you contacted them directly to find out
Yes.
their specific, ongoing relationship with the program and how does that work
Yes,
out?
so we answered that earlier as well. Corvallis, the superintendent, they are the kind of guinea pig, they've been with them 2.5 years, and yes, we did meet with him.
Okay, seeing it on paper and actually having conversation are two different things, so I wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Sorry.
I got a question on A and B reimbursement. If I'm not mistaken, isn't A and B reimbursement the year after? So if a student enrolls the first year, we would not be reimbursed until the following year.
Correct.
Is that,
I believe so.
okay. I just,
But we will have to pay Harmony.
should we have super success in
There's no
recruitment in
payment
this?
to Harmony.
I worry that the very first year we run that,
That's-
we are taking away from our brick and
They
mortar
said this
kids.
is a $2,800 payment.
Because we will not be reimbursed until the following year.
And we'll have to pay for Harmony's.
That's my only concern.
I'm not
I
being,
think if
I'm
it's
texting
small,
him to see when he's available.
if it's a small amount, I don't think it's deal, but should this plan be very successful and you get 15 to 25 kids to enroll in this, that's quite a burden on the first year that you won't be reimbursed until the second,
So the next year.
cause A and B would be the next year.
Yeah.
That's my, I just think that's a concern that if we over-recruit this, you could be really taxing that first year until you're reimbursed, but when they base it all on A and B, that comes the next year. The first year you go through it, we'd be absorbing that until we're reimbursed.
Is that how the contract reads, Mayor? I can't remember.
Yeah, so the contract reads that, they have specific dates that you pay, and I wanna say it's October, and.
For the current year that we're in,
Mhm.
Page 4 of 7.
Is it page 4? Thank you. I did read it, so, October, yeah, February, or in another place it also said possibly January, so you do pay it that year.
So even 10 kids is.
Yeah.
Would be a chunk, and you have 30 days to pay it, and then if you don't, obviously they tack on some extra fees,
1% per month,
right, if you're out of compliance with paying them for
or more
their.
than 10 days overdue.
And again, this would be a good thing if they come here to have a big meeting to ask them a ton of different questions.
And like I said, they have been responsive every time we've asked them to meet. They've come to our budget workshop, first it was on the phone, they've had Zooms with us, that we've invited everyone to, so, yeah, they're not afraid to talk and to answer the big questions.
The only question that had me concerned with this is the first thing that, Ellen Childress said was that she requested a table, and then that got overturned in Monica. I felt wanted to approve it.
She wanted to have the discussion.
Have
Say
the
that,
discussion.
to have the
Oh,
discussion.
I am not a
Yes.
Robert's
No,
Rules
you're
of Order
fine.
person, so I'm learning here, as
Yes.
we go, so thank you very much.
We wanted to open it so we could have the discussion. If we table it, nobody talks about it. None of these questions get asked. She didn't get her answers if we tabled it right away.
Great, okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it made sense to discuss it rather than table it.
Anecdotally, I thought it was interesting that I was stuck on a plane with a young man from the Corvallis band group in, outside of Denver because we couldn't land, and I said, oh, you go to school in Corvallis? I said, do you have any friends that participate in Harmony? well, it's kind of like a hybrid, he goes, oh yeah, the alternative school.
That's what they use at
The Rice
charter.
Charter program.
That's what they use at their charter
Yeah,
schools.
and so is, I mean, yeah, I brought this up because Mission also launched a charter school, so is that where this all heads eventually?
Possibly, unfortunately.
You know, last comment, you know, this is a business model, you know, you have to recognize that from Harmony, they're in it, in a business model and facility. And the lady mentioned there, the school voucher program, I have a hunch, and this is just my hunch, that Harmony is hitting Montana pretty hard right now, because the voucher program would kind of blow up their program. I know Arizona has it, Wyoming has it, I think Idaho has it, what she's talking about, you know, the parent voucher program, where you actually eliminate Harmony, you take pretty much the money yourself as a parent. So, you know, you may wanna keep that in the back of your head, I don't know what Montana's gonna do.
They shot it
Right now.
down this year when it went before them, they may continue shooting it down, but it was legislation this year. They were asking for $8,000 per student for the family, and Montana legislation shot it down, so it did not pass. But it is something that may be coming, absolutely. But until then, how do we bridge a gap, and Harmony is one company that tries to bridge that gap.
Right. Yep.
So when I ask a question about charter school and you say, unfortunately, it could be heading there,
Not us personally, sorry, I just meant
like, that scares
nationwide,
me.
the state.
That takes money away from our public schools
Yes.
right here, so those words make me sit up and go, oh.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you watch the nation, absolutely a lot of people are moving to charter schools. Plains does not want to do that. However, that is part of the future that we're seeing. School districts around Montana, other states, it is not an uncommon thing anymore.
And I hope that we look into the state of Washington and their charter school situation and talk to teachers who have been.
We are not advocating for a charter school at Plains High School,
Okay,
just
thank
so you know.
Not at all.
Not at all.
That is
I'm
not-
talking
that is not what's
national,
the table
yes,
at all.
that's an issue. Plains is not an issue at this point. So that's not something we're entertaining right now. Okay, so, I think we had a good discussion. We will table that till we hear back from Harmony to make sure we can get those questions answered.
And we're gonna try and have a public meeting with the homeschool community before the next board meeting.
She's trying to see
I
when they can be
texted them.
available. The homeschool committee has been invited to all the other meetings we've had as well. They've just not always planned to show up to the Harmony meetings, but we will definitely make that available.
Great.
And consideration and possible action on establishing a flag football team. We'll take a motion on that, so we can
I
discuss it.
make a motion that we, make our football team flag.
Okay, I'm looking at, well, I guess we need a second. Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay.
And to make this really clear, this is a junior high program.
Yeah, junior high.
Okay.
Yes, junior high.
Not high school. I wanted to make sure that got fixed on that. I saw Mr. Cole getting ready to sit up.
Okay.
We'll get to you, Austin. We will.
Okay, so we have before us, we did talk about this, the last board meeting, for those who were here, discussing whether or not our school wants to entertain the idea of moving to a flag football team instead of tackle. We had Mike Tatum, junior high, we had Mike Tatum here, he did speak a little bit about that, from his perspective. I had hoped Michelle Greer would be here, but she could not make it tonight, there was a conflict in schedules. She did give us, their current schedule, and as it sits right now, they're going to be doing a hybrid anyway. They have some teams they're playing that are flag and some that are tackle. So I think it's important that we notate that while we're looking at this moving forward. Russell, do you have some insight on the flag football
The only
discussion?
thing I have to say is, since we've started this discussion and they started scheduling for next year, more schools have moved to flag football. So it seems like even if we don't make this decision now, it'll be made for us eventually. There's more and more flag football teams at that age group every year.
Do you know how many of them have moved in this year or last year to that flag football status?
I'd have to look at the sheet again, but it seemed there was 2 or 3 more teams just in western Montana
ones are flagged and which ones aren't, but it doesn't tell me which ones moved.
Yeah.
Okay. Austin,
I'm your football coach for these guys, and, you know, I've got mixed opinions about this. We were a small school, with a small group of kids last year, and it was really tough. I mean, we had some games that were incredibly tough. But, after visiting with all those kids that are coming back, that actually stuck it through that season, they are really looking forward to playing tackle football. You know, almost, well, actually every one of them that's coming back is looking forward to it. I think it's a great thing to do a hybrid season, to get them in shape for that, because, you know, eventually they're gonna move to tackle football, and you don't want a sophomore that's never put on pads to go to a tackle school that has been playing tackle football the whole time. I mean, that would be devastating. So I kinda like the idea of a hybrid system for these kids. This year's gonna be a lot better. We're gonna have a lot more younger kids stepping up in the program. We only lost 3, we only had 9 kids last year. So, I'm sorry, 10 kids. So providing everybody had their grades, and nobody had a sore ankle, you know, we had 1 substitute. And anybody that's ever played any sport, you have 1 substitute. I don't care if you're playing soccer, I don't care what you're playing, it's tough, you know, because somebody's family's got something going on. I mean, it's just tough. And you have no substitute, no break, and you're out there the whole time running and doing your best. It's hard to compete. But so I like the idea of a hybrid setup for these kids. But I think it's a good to transition them into full contact football. The one thing that I do wanna bring up, and I'm just gonna, I don't know if this is the place, but I wanna do some type of fundraiser to get some better pads and equipment for our kids. The stuff we have is pretty darn dated, and I don't mind doing whatever I've got to help the kids get their equipment. But I'm all for a hybrid, but I definitely, and the kids, I can speak for all the kids, none of the kids want just flag football. So, whatever that's worth.
Austin, how difficult would it be to coach a hybrid? Like, are you thinking some of those kids are going to refuse to play in
No.
tackle football and some will refuse to play in what?
All of the kids from last year wanna play tackle football, and I've got a lot of new kids I've talked to that wanna play tackle football, and I've already told them, you know, the schedule's out there, we're gonna have a couple flag games, they're okay with that. None of them right now are crazy about it, but they're okay with that. So it won't be hard to coach. I'm gonna have to learn some new rules and do some adapting. And it's gonna be hard to remind a kid that, you know, I'm running up to the line and I'm not gonna hit this guy. I'm gonna, you know. So it's gonna be a little bit of adjustment for us, but I think it's doable. And I think it's a good transition, you know, to get the kids more games and more experience.
Russell, have any other schools done hybrid, do you know?
I'm not sure, I'm not one of the last.
I just wasn't sure, like, just knowing junior high kids, like, okay, guys, we're not tackling anybody, remember, don't knock them down, they got a flag. Just don't put them to the ground, pull the flag off.
I am well prepared for that I mean.
That's the only thing that really scares me, like, the one kid just gonna go run and just take this kid down and be like, oh, you got a flag on, my bad.
And flag football's still kinda rough, you know.
Don't they play it in PE already, flag football?
We don't at the high school, but we have with the younger kids.
I
So
do
we
know,
already kinda know.
I'm sorry. I do know that other schools, Superior, I believe is one of them, that started a flag football, and it's helped their football, their high school team a lot. But I do think a hybrid season would be the best of both worlds.
So and looking at this list of the schools and who plays what, most of the teams on here are flag teams, although they're not schools that we currently play. If we went to flag, would we see us playing a Potomac, Phillipsburg, Sealy Lake, Lone Rock, these schools, Hellgate, that have flag but don't have tackle, that we're not playing now? Would that increase how many games they're able to play? Because there's not very many matches for these junior high kids.
We do have a short season, but I really think we're robbing these kids if we take tackle football away from them. I mean, I played when I was a kid. You can have just as many injuries playing flag football, I believe, as you can in tackle.
Well, as I'm looking at the kids, the schools that have tackle, we play some of them, but like we don't play, St. Regis, Charlotte, Thompson Falls, they're tackle teams close to us, but they're not on our
We don't.
listed either,
You
at
don't
all.
play Thompson Falls?
No, it says no Aspens, but all of these, we don't play, 3 of those tackle teams that are close to us, we're not playing them at all.
Well, we didn't play Thompson Falls this year because they're such a larger school. We played those guys last year, and I'm not pulling numbers out, but they had over 30-some kids, and we had 10.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why we're not, Michelle was very kind in trying to schedule our games with schools of comparable size. Because when we're playing a school that just has 3 or 4 subs, that's much more fair than somebody that has a whole offense and defense, and we're throwing our kids out there, you know. So she did that intentionally, trying to protect our kids in the program, so we're playing schools of similar size.
My name's Kyle Mitchell, and I'm former junior high football coach here. I coached here for 7 years. I coached in Darby for 3 years, coached California for 2 years. I think flag football is great for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. Okay. However, as students progress into junior high, they need to learn more about how to run, more than just how to run a play. In fact, the reason I quit coaching here at Plains is because in 2020, the decision was made by the administration that football would go to touch and intramural because of COVID. I believe that only offering football and flag football in junior high would be like offering t-ball for baseball until high school, okay? Or soft pitch for softball. Historically, successful football programs typically introduce youth leagues such as Pop Warner at a young age. In our society, we teach our children the importance of being nonviolent, discouraging hitting, pushing, and aggressive behavior. However, success in football requires development of the opposing skills. Before high school, young athletes should learn proper blocking, tackling, and how to run and move wearing pads and helmets. Mastering these skills require time and practice and experience, and limiting this development restricts their potential. As a former football coach, I've always hoped to coach again at some point, whether it be at high school or junior high. As my career progresses and my sons grow older. However, if Plain offers only tackle football in high school, my involvement would be less likely. As a father of 2 young boys, I would like them to have the opportunity to play junior high tackle football if they choose. If Plain does not offer this option, I would respectfully express my concerns at school board meetings, and especially as they get older, okay? And I consider enrolling them in another schools, or different schools if there's not an option here. The current issue here at Plains is a lack of enrollment and a lack of eligibility. Right now, I can tell you in the 8th grade class, there's 8 boys. In the 7th grade class, it's about the same. And there's probably twice as many girls in both those classes. I tell the girls I feel bad for them all the time because there's not many options for them. Okay? Could you show me an example of a Montana school with junior high flag football that has won a state championship? They won a state championship? Okay, in conclusion, I hope that we offer a high school tackle, or a junior high.
And I think there's a lot of reasons around maybe wanting to move to flag, and one of them might be because tackle football just won't be available.
Huh? What,
I think there's a lot of reasons why there's the request for the flag football program, and part of it is because the tackle football teams that they play are disappearing.
Well, no, but they're not. We're not scheduling them. Like he said, like Austin said. I taught in Darby 1 year, and I had, like he did, 9 players or 8 players. When we got our first game in Salmon, 2 of my 8 players got injured and scared. The next game I had, and Salmon didn't have that many players, but they did like a Pop Warner league, and they were tough little guys. The next game was in Hamilton. I had my AD call up Hamilton because they had like 30 players like he was saying Thompson Falls. And I said, hey, I don't know how competitive we're going to be because we only have, that time we were playing 11-man football. I think we only had like 12 football players. Like, I don't know how competitive we're going to be. We ended up destroying Hamilton to the point where we're like, what are you guys talking about? Because we had one athlete that can outrun all of them. So a lot of times it's just, it might be the difference of one player or two players, especially at junior high. And like I said, if you don't offer them, it takes a lot of these kids some time to figure out how to do these things and get this experience. So, like I said, I think we should stick to tackle. Like I said, I don't think we're scheduling, I think we're scheduling around it, not looking at it. I mean, like I said, that's what I feel on this whole thing.
Can I add one? So of the 10 kids that I had, 3 of those kids had played previously, that's it. So the other 7 kids, that was their first year, and they loved it so much. I mean, that's what they want to play. I mean, that's where their hearts are.
And I know, Gavin's class has a lot of boys, and I know that it's gonna break their heart. They wanna play football.
I
And
think
they're gonna
they
be,
deserve the
they're gonna be
opportunity.
decent, and I think that would be sad to rob them of that opportunity.
So, I know Michelle's not here, but do you know, is this like a proposed schedule that got put together off of, cause I see
Is that
half
what she has actually
flag and
scheduled?
half tackle on here.
It's already a hybrid schedule.
She's
Yeah.
contacted me and she told me that is my schedule.
Okay, cause like this is already a hybrid schedule for this coming school year that's
So
already
isn't
been
that
put
the
together.
wording that should be on here is hybrid versus?
Well, no, so some of these schools that they're playing on here have already switched to flag, because they don't do tackle.
No, but your thing here says.
That's for our school, is what we're
Yeah,
talking
but
about.
why can't-
That's our school, not their schools.
No, I know, but why are you saying, did you wanna go straight to flag, or are you gonna listen to that?
This is the athletic
The
director.
athletic director, Michelle Greer, asked us to switch to a flag football team. That is
Not a
what her
hybrid.
request was, not a hybrid.
Okay, that's,
But that doesn't mean we can't work through that and see what actually works for our school district. That's just a request that was on the table.
She went to this year's 80 division meeting, and by the time she got there, more teams had switched to flag football, so either they were gonna play some of those lopsided teams, or they were gonna have some flag on their schedule anyways. Kinda didn't have a choice there.
Are there any concerns as far as MHSA or anything with the requirements around tackle versus flag and us trying to do both?
Junior high is not governed by MHS.
Oh, good, okay. Or whatever board it is that governs junior high sports, right? I mean, there's somebody over there.
I will say,
That's it?
tackle football, they do want MOAs for junior high football, and they don't for flag football.
Right, and I know that was one of the things that you could save some money potentially in who's. So at this point, if it's already a hybrid schedule, I'm not sure that we as a board have to pass anything at this point, it's already hybrid.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, correct, I mean,
We
they
don't
already,
have a choice.
they already have a schedule, it is a hybrid, so,
Talking about fully adopting it. You'd have to be in on it, you'd have to be playing.
I don't think we should fully adopt anything going into the next year. If we see a progression that a lot of these schools are getting away from tackle football and then go to flag,
Then we bring
and then we
back
find
the
out we have nobody to play tackle football anymore with, then it's gonna kind of force our hand. I mean, are we all in agreement on something like that? Like, if they take away all the tackle football teams, not this coming school year, the year after, and more teams switch, that's gonna be taking away options that we have that we don't have anymore. I don't see any issues with the schedule that's been proposed. Austin, with you being the coach, do you have a problem with this schedule on here?
No, I think it's the best of both worlds at this point.
then I would say we, table that, or how do you? Just table it. Get rid of this, table it now, and we'll come back to it if we have to.
Yeah, so we'll just.
Okay.
Before you adjourn, can I just say, I wasn't being rude, I spoke with Kobe. He's gonna talk with the team tomorrow, he'll get back to me by Wednesday. He's gonna try to see if something might come up the first or second week of June, see if we can do that. Okay, in person, so I'll keep you abreast of everything.
Perfect, sounds good. And when we get that scheduled, we'll make sure to, public notice that, so anyone who wants to come can come and visit West Harmony. Okay, we're adjourned.
Please be sure to bring your questions with you.
Adjourned at 8:54.
We can't leave this.
I know, I can't believe that.
Yeah, from-
Okay.
Hey, Kevin, we're gonna keep going.
Uh,
Yeah. I think some people, I don't know about everybody, but that's okay. That's what you got to work with. Nope, not ever. Yeah. That's okay.
Amazing, it's come so far.
So you'll fit in wherever you go.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, you're ready.
Did Monica take off? She's right there.
I didn't leave.
We got the signatures here.
This will allow Catherine to.
Yeah. Well, we're coming off summer break, right?
Got everything. What's the inquiry code word?
Oh, it's my safe word. I know. I'm just
Inquiry code, what does that mean? I like to be dialogical. I'm a therapist, that's what I do. Communication. Yeah. Honestly, do we know what inquiry code word means?
Karen,
I sure do, because I don't know what that means. What's an inquiry code word? Batman? Inquiry code word?
That's for
They asked me my password.
Oh.
So they figure out.
Thank you. I was hard to look at it before.
Karen, if I ask you that, okay, what's my second email, because I put my L different
So what is
It's a tax code. So they'll ask you when you get on the phone.
Oh, so I can make whatever I want to be? Oh, okay.
What's the type ID number? That's what my, driver's license.
Oh, you my driver's license? Mr. Speaker. I actually like Catherine just calling me Spurt. She said it.
No, him and I did. You two got on together. You got one more. This one more. I got it in this one. Okay, thank you. I will keep doing that. I like that. Okay, but the good things, please let me know. If I do bad things, let me know if I can change it. Yeah, I like this too. Keep things structured.
Yes, they were. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got
There you go.
So, yes.
Every time we bring these places, she's like, I got. That's what my dad wants to do. Eric, your daughter cracked me up. When we were at McKenzie Pizza Company, he said she called you guys for dinner and said no, and she's like, never mind, I have to order food. Now I said they want me to bring something home. That cracked me up. And Bubba walked, she's like, I gotta call my dad before I come home, because he's got a lot to do.
Well, and that's, and they had a store there.
Yeah, and they, we moved, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That cracked me up. I'm like, no, like it's good to buy. Like, it's good to go. That's okay. Every joke is over like the chef salad from Mackenzie, just look at the size, and it was like crazy. And then she was taking on it, she scraped all the blue cheese off, all the arugula, all the eggs. I'm like, no, I just ordered it.
We had to pay a travel agency for like tickets. I can never remember when anybody's married.
Right? She cooked like what she wanted.
Yeah, and I kept her name, so I just, but I can't remember. But they were in school. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It seems like it was on the way.
Nobody can see you. You're like,
You better teach me better, boy. You're doing good. I don't know about that.
Yes, I am.
Good night, thank you.
because it's worth losing my job.
He loves you. He loves me, but he doesn't love me the same as you do.
Okay, so now my next question is, with MTSBA, who has to go on there and take a vote out?
We're on two different spectrums.
Oh yeah, don't forget to take away his email address.
Right, but I think there's things with MTSBA that you have to go in and change that organization.
Oh yeah, because it's you.
You
It's
will,
there.
Do I do that or
I
does
think you'll do
somebody else
that,
do
and the
that? I don't
paperwork
want
will
to.
show that you're the chair, and they're gonna ask you vice chair. Cause like how they told everybody to go to Bo for everything, now they're gonna be told everybody needs to go to you
Everybody
first.
has to go through me. Steve Spurs, vice chair. Steve's taking over. I quit.
She wanted to become chair, I said, people, the only thing I'll do is she's chair, I don't wanna be chair.
I think this meeting went very well.
I told him instead of asking to decide, and he goes, I don't have the flexibility. I
I
don't.
bit my,
Which time? Tell me.
when the person right there made a comment about finances, I almost said something.
I'm tripping over my words. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do at this time and time. It is very confusing.
I don't care how long it takes, or how old
And it
you
would
get.
be okay if people gave you a wobble room of grace to understand you're learning something instead of being ready to jump on you every time you make a mistake. There's no mistakes. I don't know what I'm doing. I've done, and I have that, the Robert's Rules of Order. I've been through that. I've read it. I've watched the board chair training 2 or 3 times. Still doing it in action when my amygdala's on fire and my nervous system's on.
And I went to the coaches, and I pulled all the list of this is, I'm gonna let you guys know, this is the secret. And I told them all about it, John's and John's.
Which is why, which is part of the reason I'm sure you wanted. You just get all this quality.
Because she didn't know how to balance her budget. She's doing all herself.
Are you done yet? Are you working on your time? Really? You didn't even tell me.
That's the reason why I want you to see this. Because I'm always going to give you a raise and you struggle to not know what else to do or, oh, you have to do here, or they broke it out there.
Oh, I didn't even know she left.
So, on a side thing, to break off.
And then I think she got 2 weeks. It was gonna be hard for him to get them to show up.
She needs to have sports
And
and
that's what we're talking about right now, sorry, it's back over here. Yep.
And if she can't do that,
I have 2 circuses. I love both, but I'm gonna research. It's the most uncomfortable thing I've ever said, there's 3 circuses, I can't do it, my nervous system will not. Nope, I'm sorry, it's something I want to do, but you're not gonna get across the board.
School program.
Sitting here for 20 minutes, so everyone's gone by the time I walk outside.
I won't even go in. I won't even go.
Because it's a school program, you're not approved either, so.
Actually, I was doing the shaking thing, just as we were going into starting the new one and signing her in, and the first thing, after that, I failed, and my nervous system did calm down. Did you hear me? At the very first, and then
No,
it calmed
I
down.
only got upset for some reason because the whole thing. I was, and I wanted to stand up, looking in the rooms, I wanted to see, you guys have every right to be upset in your rooms as a parent. I was calling and asking, is my daughter was a total bitch on this song? And I was like, why? Do you wanna know how much, do you wanna know why? Do you wanna know why? Because somebody dropped down the budget and screwed it up, I'm gonna hold our money, so we can't let you go. Would you like me to point that person out? And she said, oh, it's not a secret, it's public information, I'll tell you about it, I don't care.
Why are we taking money out of this business and putting it in the general fund? And the money should have been spent in the general fund and whatever you call it, that's really.
Honestly, what I really wanted to say, when Eric goes, why are we using this payroll to do this? And I wanted to go, because we're almost done with contracts. That's why. And when I did it last year, we signed in October.
Yeah.
It was like.
So we're basically done, ready to move on to classified, and
So yeah, that's why.
No, because I gotta vote him in
And you see me speak up, I'm like, no, this was discussed long before that. That we were gonna use legal for the negotiation.
I thought you were gonna say because.
No, I almost said that to you.
well, I was thinking that up tonight.
Oh, sorry, guys.
So.
Set up nice though, huh? Set up nice.
Yeah, I like that setup, we need to do that every time.
I don't like that.
Yeah, we're good, man.
I wanna bury that.
Dude,
I'm totally willing,
I'm,
if you are.
yeah, we're good, man.
And
No.
let's start over.
No,
Let's start fresh.
totally.
And,
I'm good with it.
yeah, there's no reason.
I was happy like talking to Madison, having conversations.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I wonder if there's a lady that we're dads.
No, and let's bury that.
I'm good with it, dude.
Let's bury
I'm fine
that.
with that.
No,
we're good.
I kinda had to bury some of my egos myself, so.
No, we're good.
I wanna, you know.
I appreciate it.
I don't want, it just takes
We're
too
getting
much
too old.
energy.
We're getting too
You know,
old.
it just, you know,
We're getting too old.
for no reason,
I appreciate it.
let's just let it go.
No, we're good, dude.
If-
No, seriously. Yeah, we're good.
Good.
Not a problem, man. Not a
I
problem.
don't wanna, you know, I don't wanna pass the highway patrol and wonder.
I would never do that to you, dude. I would never do that. I waive it. Well, this is the thing, like Ethan, a couple of years ago, he got upset about something. He's like, well, when you drive by me, you don't wave. And I'm like, why are we getting an argument right now? Well, you don't wave at me. I'm like, dude, I'm going to calls, man. I didn't wave at you. And he's like, well, I'm like, dude, are we 10?
Well, that's what you gotta do, is when you.
I was like, oh my god. When he did that, I was like, well, you're upset because I didn't wave. Well, I asked you twice last week and you would wave back. I'm like, dude, I don't remember driving by you.
I know.
Like, I'm going to calls. Like, I don't.
But look, you better wave at me.
This is the problem. We're supposed to have 7 troopers. We live here. We're extremely short staffed right now. And the hours.
It's been that way forever.
This is short.
Well, even when I first came in.
So for
I think still not enough.
So for the troopers, at one point we had 7. We usually have 6. But right now it's me, Zach, and Jordan. Because everybody else is thinking it's green on the other side of the fence and they're going out of state. The gal we're supposed to get, I don't know if she's gonna graduate. I'm not training her. They assigned someone else to me. And I didn't come here. Because I stepped up because I guess we have so many people that need to, I didn't want to train them because it's meant to be exhausting.
Oh, I know.
And so much paperwork.
Oh, yeah.
No, so like, I just want to drive. No, it was fun. Madison had a,
Yeah.
she had a blast.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I'm really excited for next season. I'm really excited for next season. Well, they got a taste. No one else that got screws, like Tristan was her senior year.